My name is Maria, and I'm 29 years old. This is my story about my Aunt Linda and how my whole family turned against me. I need to tell you something first. When I was a baby, my real parents died in a car crash. I don't remember them at all. My grandma took me in and raised me. She was the only mom I ever knew. Grandma had 3 children of her own. There was my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Bob, and my mom who died. Aunt Linda had 2 kids named Brett and Ashley. Uncle Bob had one son named Kyle. They were my cousins, but they never treated me like family. When I was little, we had big family dinners every Sunday. Grandma would cook so much food. She made the best chicken and potatoes. Everyone would sit at the long table and talk and laugh. But I always felt different. Aunt Linda would give her kids presents at the dinner table. She would give them new toys and candy. But she never gave me anything. When I asked why, she said, "Because you're not really my niece. You're just someone my mother took in." Those words made me want to cry. Uncle Bob was the same way. He took Kyle to baseball games and movies. One time I asked if I could go too. Uncle Bob looked at me like I was a bug. He said, "This is for my real family. You can stay home." I was only 8 years old, and I didn't understand why they hated me. At school, the other kids would talk about their families. They had moms and dads, and cousins who loved them. I had grandma, and that was it. Sometimes kids would ask, "Where are your parents?"
I didn't know what to say.
I would just look down at my shoes and feel sad. Grandma loved me so much though. She hugged me every day. She helped me with my homework. She came to every school play and every concert. When other kids had both parents there, I had my grandma, and that made me feel special. But Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob were always mean to Grandma about me. I would hear them arguing. Aunt Linda would yell, "Why do you spend so much money on that girl? She's not your real grandchild. You should be saving money for Brett and Ashley." Grandma would get so mad. She would say, "Maria, is my grandchild. She's my daughter's baby. How dare you say she's not family?" But Aunt Linda never stopped saying mean things. Every Christmas was horrible. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob would bring huge presents for their own kids. Brett got a new bike. Ashley got a dollhouse. Kyle got video games. They would open these presents and scream with joy. Then it was my turn. Aunt Linda would hand me a small present. Inside was always something cheap and used. One year I got a broken calculator. Another year I got old socks with holes in them. Brett and Ashley would laugh at me. Grandma would see this, and her eyes would fill with tears. Grandma always tried to make it better. After everyone left, she would give me my real presents. She bought me beautiful things and told me I was special. But it still hurt that my aunt and uncle hated me so much. When I turned 13, something really bad happened. Grandma got sick. She had something wrong with her blood. She had to go to the hospital a lot. The doctors said she might not get better. I took care of Grandma every day after school. I made her soup. I read her books. I held her hand when she was scared. It was hard, but I loved her and I wanted to help. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob barely visited. Maybe once a month they would come for 10 minutes. They would ask Grandma, "Did you update your will? Make sure we get the house and the money." That's all they cared about. Not if Grandma was okay. Just the money. Grandma had a lot of money saved up. She owned her house and had savings from when Grandpa was alive. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob would talk about it all the time. They counted the money before Grandma was even dead.
It made me feel sick.
Years went by, and I grew up. I graduated high school at the top of my class. Grandma came to my graduation in a wheelchair. She was so proud of me. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob didn't even come. They said they were busy. I got a scholarship to college. I studied nursing because I wanted to help people like Grandma. I worked part-time at a grocery store to pay for my food and books. It was hard, but I did it. Every weekend, I drove 2 hours to visit Grandma. I cleaned her house. I took her to doctor appointments. I made sure she took her medicine. Aunt Linda lived only 20 minutes away, but she never helped. She was always too busy shopping or going to parties. When I was 25, Grandma got much worse. The doctors said she only had a few months left. I quit my job and moved back home to take care of her full time. I gave up everything to be with her. Those last months were so hard. Grandma was in a lot of pain. She couldn't walk anymore. She couldn't eat much. I had to help her with everything. Some days I was so tired I would cry. But I never left her side. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob showed up when Grandma was dying. Not to help. Not to say goodbye. They came to look for her will. I caught Aunt Linda going through Grandma's desk. She was looking for papers. When I asked what she was doing, she said, "None of your business. This doesn't concern you." One night, Grandma called me to her bed. She could barely talk. Her voice was so quiet. She said, "Maria, my sweet girl, you're the only one who truly loved me. The only one who stayed." Tears rolled down her face. Grandma reached under her pillow and pulled out a big yellow envelope. She put it in my hands. She said, "Don't open this until after I'm gone. And don't tell anyone about it. Promise me." I promised her even though I didn't understand. 2 days later, Grandma died. I was holding her hand. I told her I loved her over and over. She looked at me one last time and smiled. Then she closed her eyes forever. My heart broke into a million pieces that day. The funeral was big. Lots of people came because Grandma was loved by everyone in town. Everyone except her own children, apparently. Aunt Linda wore a fancy black dress and fake cried. Uncle Bob looked bored and kept checking his watch. After the funeral, Aunt Linda pulled me aside. She had a mean smile on her face. She said, "You can pack up your things and leave Grandma's house now. We're selling it. The money will be split between me and Bob. You get nothing because you're not real family." I felt like someone poured ice water on my head. I said, "But Grandma raised me here. This is my home." Aunt Linda laughed. A real ugly laugh. She said, "Not anymore, it's not. You were just the maid. Now your job is done." Uncle Bob nodded. He said, "Yeah, we're being nice even talking to you. You should just disappear. You were always a burden to this family." Brett and Ashley stood behind them smiling. They were happy to see me hurt. That night, I went to my room and cried until I had no more tears. I felt so alone. So unwanted. I thought about just running away and never coming back. But then I remembered the yellow envelope. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter from Grandma. It was written in her shaky handwriting. I read it, and my mouth fell open. The letter said, "My dearest Maria, you are the light of my life. You loved me when my own children only loved my money. I'm leaving you everything. The house is yours. All my savings are yours. Every single penny belongs to you. Linda and Bob get nothing because they gave me nothing. I've already made it legal with my lawyer. His name is Mr. Peterson and his number is at the bottom of this letter. Call him after I'm gone. And don't let those greedy vultures bully you. You deserve everything because you gave me everything. I love you forever, Grandma." I couldn't believe it. I read the letter 5 times. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I called Mr. Peterson right away, even though it was late at night. Mr. Peterson said, "Yes, I've been waiting for your call. Your grandmother changed her will 6 months ago. Everything goes to you. We have a meeting scheduled for next week to read the will officially." The next week came, and we all met at the lawyer's office. Aunt Linda walked in wearing expensive jewelry. Uncle Bob wore a fancy suit. They looked so happy and excited. They thought they were about to get rich. Brett, Ashley, and Kyle were there too. They were already talking about what cars they would buy with their inheritance money. Ashley said, "I'm getting a convertible." They all laughed. Mr. Peterson sat at his desk and opened a folder. He looked serious. He said, "Thank you all for coming. I'll now read Mrs. Johnson's last will and testament." Aunt Linda was smiling so big. Uncle Bob rubbed his hands together. They looked like hungry wolves. Mr. Peterson started reading. "I, Mrs. Eleanor Johnson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby leave all my worldly possessions to my beloved granddaughter Maria Chin." The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Aunt Linda's smile froze on her face. Uncle Bob's mouth hung open like a fish. Mr. Peterson kept reading. This includes my house at 432 Maple Street, all funds in my bank accounts totaling $1.2 million, my car, my jewelry, and all other possessions. To my daughter Linda and my son Robert, I leave nothing. They abandoned me in my time of need and showed me that they valued money over family. Aunt Linda jumped out of her chair. Her face turned bright red. She screamed, "This is fake. My mother would never do this. That girl poisoned her mind." She pointed at me with a shaking finger. Uncle Bob started yelling too. "We're contesting this. We'll take you to court. That money is ours." Spit was flying out of his mouth. He was so angry. But Mr. Peterson stayed calm. He said, "The will is completely legal. It was witnessed by 3 people and notarized. Mrs. Johnson was evaluated by a doctor who confirmed she was of sound mind. You can try to contest it, but you will lose and waste your money on lawyer fees." Brett stood up and got in my face. He said, "You manipulated a sick old lady. You're a thief." But I didn't move. I looked him right in the eyes. I wasn't scared anymore. Cal started crying, actual tears. Not sad tears. Angry tears. He said, "This isn't fair. We're her real grandkids. You're just some random orphan she felt sorry for." Aunt Linda tried one more time. She got down on her knees in front of me. Fake tears ran down her face. She said, "Please, Maria. We're family. Surely you'll share with us. We're your aunt and uncle. We love you." I looked down at this woman who called me an outsider my whole life. This woman who gave me broken presents at Christmas. This woman who told me I didn't belong. And I said the words I'd been waiting my whole life to say. "You told me I wasn't real family. You said I was just someone Grandma took in. You said I was a burden. You treated me like garbage for 29 years. My voice was steady and strong. "Grandma left me everything because I was there when you weren't. I loved her when you only loved her money. And you're right about one thing. We're not family. We never were. So no, I won't share a single penny with you." Aunt Linda's face changed from fake sadness to real hatred. She screamed words I can't repeat.
Uncle Bob threatened me.
But Mr. Peterson called security and they were escorted out of the building. That was 3 years ago. I still live in Grandma's house. I painted it yellow because that was her favorite color. I planted roses in the garden like she always wanted. Every room reminds me of her love. I used some of the money to finish my nursing degree. Now I work at a children's hospital helping sick kids. Grandma would be so proud. I also donated money to build a new playground in the park where Grandma used to take me when I was little. There's a bench there with her name on it. Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob tried to sue me 3 times. They lost every single time and had to pay their lawyer thousands of dollars. They spent so much money fighting me that now they're actually poor. Aunt Linda had to sell her big house and move into an apartment. Uncle Bob drives an old car that breaks down all the time. Brett lost his job and asked me for money last month. I said no. Ashley called me crying saying she can't pay her rent. I said that's not my problem. Cal sent me a long message saying he was sorry for everything and could we start over. I blocked his number. The family that told me I didn't belong, the aunt who said Grandma's fortune was theirs and not mine, the cousins who laughed when I got broken presents, they all have nothing now while I have everything. But the best part isn't the money or the house. The best part is that every single day I wake up knowing that Grandma chose me. The girl they called an outsider became the only family that mattered, and the people who spent their lives making me feel unwanted now have to live with the fact that when it mattered most, I was chosen, and they were forgotten.